So, you want to hear a story? I got one for you. In 1938, a state run asylum in the northeastern United States shut its doors without warning. Officially, it was due to budget cuts. A quiet closure. No scandal, no press. But when the building was sealed, more than 300 patients were never discharged, never transferred, and never buried. Their names remain locked inside a place that no longer exists on any map. And the strangest part is, the final patient entry was written after the asylum had already closed. Welcome to Now It's Dark. The facility was known as Greyhaven State Hospital. It was built far from town, surrounded by forest and farmland, intentionally isolated. Greyhaven was designed to be self-sustaining, a place where the mentally ill could be housed, treated, and largely forgotten. At the time, if you demonstrated any behavior determined to be socially deviant, you could find yourself in a place like Greyhaven. Deviances like mania, melancholia, dementia, or basically mood swings, sadness, and cognitive decline. Those were some big reasons. Also, a diagnosis of neurasthenia, which is fatigue, insomnia, and weakness, often linked to the struggles of modern life. And then everybody's favorite, idiocy, imbecility, what we would call today, in our polite terms, intellectual disabilities. This one was very common for child admissions. Greyhaven was considered modern. Patient records mentioned hydrotherapy, isolation wards, experimental sedatives and treatments meant to calm the disturbed and manage overcrowding. But former employees would later describe something very different. Nurses spoke of entire corridors that they were ordered never to enter, doors without room numbers, hallways that did not appear on official maps. One nurse recalled being told explicitly that if she ever found herself in a lower corridor by mistake, she was to turn around immediately and not report it, don't ask questions, don't write anything down, just leave. On the night Greyhaven closed, a single night watchman was left behind. His job was simple: secure the building, lock the wards, and wait for morning. But sometime after midnight, he began hearing doors opening. Not slamming, not crashing, just the slow, deliberate sound of heavy institutional doors unlatching and then closing again. When he checked the lower levels, he found lights on in sections that were supposed to be sealed. He said he heard voices and saw shadows moving. He quit and left before sunrise and never went back to the property. Decades later, a medical historian gained access to what remained of Greyhaven's documents. At first, everything appeared normal. Patient intake logs were meticulous. Names, ages, diagnosis, dates of admission. But when he looked for discharge records, something became clear. They didn't exist. There were no transfer forms, no death certificates, no release documentation. Over 300 patients simply stopped being documented. At first, this was written off as just lost paperwork, until a second set of records surfaced. In 1937, 1 year before Greyhaven officially closed, the state quietly sent 2 inspectors to the facility. They were not listed on the public schedule, their visit was unannounced, and they stayed for less than 4 hours. Their final report was never filed. What was recovered were fragments, partial notes, references to overcrowding, and repeated mentions of areas that did not match the official layout of the hospital. Shortly after that visit, a maintenance worker was instructed to brick over a corridor in the lower levels. No explanation was given. He was told only that the hallway was no longer necessary. Greyhaven's official blueprints show a boiler room beneath the main building, nothing more. But when urban explorers entered the ruins in the 1990s, they discovered something else entirely. Behind collapsed walls and rusted doors, there were narrow underground corridors, small reinforced rooms, heavy doors with multiple locking mechanisms. What stood out? The doors had no handles on the outside. They could only be secured from a control room at the end of the hall. Inside those doors, the metal was deeply scarred. Not decorative, not accidental. Frantic marks carved again and again into the surface, concentrated about eye level. As the explorers moved deeper into the lower wing, their lights began to fail. Not all at once, but one by one. They later said it felt less like malfunction and more like something responding. Doors that had been open when they entered were now closed. They did not stay long. And when footage of the lower corridors surfaced online, the site was sealed permanently. Within a year, the county quietly removed Greyhaven from historical registries altogether. Greyhaven officially closed on October 3, 1938, but the final patient entry is dated nearly 3 weeks later. There were no staff on payroll, no deliveries, no heat, and yet parts of the building were still being used. Former employees would later say that Greyhaven did not shut down all at once. The upper wards emptied first, then the offices, then staff housing, but the lower wing remained active, not because it was forgotten, but because it was never meant to be acknowledged. No remains were ever recovered, no graves were ever found. Greyhaven didn't lose its patients, it erased them. And whatever required that level of silence was never written down. So what happened at Greyhaven State Hospital? Was it a paperwork error, or did 300 patients simply cease to exist? Are they still in the lower levels of Greyhaven? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, a like would be appreciated. And if you want more, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. Now it's dark.